everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Brian Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, the author of the Dreamer Chronicles. And I can tell that Robert isn't excited about talking about this book because he isn't doing anything. Usually he's like riding a horse or he's pretending to be an angel. But in this case, Robert just gave a thumbs up. So you know he had problems with this week's book, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And we may live up to our name a little bit because I actually kind of enjoyed it. It certainly wasn't on the level of some of the really great top tier books we've read, but I had no huge issues with it. There were a few issues here and there that I can learn from as an author, certainly. So, how you doing today, Robert?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, thank you. Yeah, that was a good read, a very good read. I like that. Yeah, he's only given a thumbs up, so there's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, we might be a little bit split. Struggled. I did struggle with the book, I must admit, and we have some really lovely listeners. Michelle, for example, I saw that she tweeted about this book, recommending it and saying how great it was. You've said to me in emails that you didn't have my take on it. So I think in this episode, the listeners should just probably expect that there's something wrong with Robert Scanlon and not the book.
There's something wrong with Robert Scanlon.
Hey, has anyone noticed how good Brian's new mic is? That's so good when you do that.
Yeah, I love my mic. I do love my mic.
Well, make use of it. Tell us about this book.
Let's get into it. Alina Starkov is an orphan, a soldier, and a second-class map maker. The best thing in her life seems to be her best friend and secret crush Mal, but even he seems to be looking for bigger and better things. When Alina learns she possesses a great power that could reunite the once great nation of Ravka, she's whisked away from Mal to train as a member of the Grisha, the magical elite led by the captivating Darkling. Nothing is what it seems, and as the kingdom counts on her to destroy the Shadowfold, a darkness swarming with monsters who feast on human flesh, she'll learn to tame her power or doom the kingdom in the process.
And there you go. If you listen to that brilliant book description, you'd go out and buy it straight away, and you'd be disappointed. Sorry.
Bookbestpageforward.com. So I want to start off by saying I like training montages.
Yeah, I wrote it down. There's a training montage in here.
A large portion of this book is essentially a training montage. And this could have impacted me finding Shadow and Bone mildly enjoyable. Go.
Well, you know how much I love dialogue, and we talked last week about the wonderful dialogue in the Scorpio races, and I really love dialogue with misdirection, when people never answer each other, You said you were coming today. Why didn't you show up when I said you should? Yeah, well, are you going to tell me about that guy Brian or not? So you get these unexpected things coming out from lines of dialogue. This entire book has cheesy dialogue. Every single line is, wow, you look really good in that dress. Do I? I didn't think that blue suited me. But how about I change something about your hair? I'm not sure if I want to change something about my hair. Yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I get it, all right, keep going.
See, you're thinking about the Grisha who changes people's appearance.
Oh, don't get me on that.
One of the best performances in the audiobook was that character.
Jenya, really?
Mm-hmm. Is that Jenya was really great. Yeah, just like, oh, well, what about if I change your face? And it was just she had fun with it, obviously. And I think that could have helped that character. Maybe the character didn't show up on the page quite as much, but in performance, that character did pretty well.
Let me be honest and say that anybody who writes a book and gets as much fan about it as this book, and it gets good reviews, clearly there's nothing wrong with it. It's my own personal opinion, and I think what happens a lot when you read something that strikes a chord or doesn't strike a chord, and you've been writing yourself, I think it's possible that you see sometimes aspects of your own writing and you think, ugh, that's terrible. Oh my God, I did the same thing. And I seriously think the biggest issue with this story is not really the story or the premise, but the writing style trying too hard. And I just couldn't get into it. There's way too many, he hissed, she snapped, and, hello, adverb city. There's adverbs in every page. It's labours. The basics are great. Reluctant heroine, suppressed love, dark overlord, a chase, training montages, uncontrollable powers, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought it was cliched and there were cardboard characters and I struggled to get through it. And then I wrote down here, but the training montages would please Bryan.
And they did. So I didn't mind the dialogue. I agree. I did pick up on points where it got very adverby. It definitely did. And I had a particularly adverby day when writing the day that I was listening to it. So I said, oh, crap. Here's the thing that I didn't like. And there were two big moments where Alina figures out her powers, essentially.
Yes.
And one comes at a very pivotal moment and one kind of comes out of the blue. And in both cases, I feel like those moments were botched. And what happens in those moments is she is basically telling how she figured out something inside herself that allows her to do something.
Correct.
Instead of there being something that happens.
Yes.
Instead of something happening that makes her figure it out, she just kind of out of the blue figures it out.
Yes.
And those were the moments that didn't ring true to me in the book. I thought it's kind of funny because Alina's kind of a passive character. Things happen to her a lot. And so things could have totally happened to her that made her figure this out. But instead, at this point, the author kind of makes a reversal and says, no, Alina's a deep introspective person who understands herself so well that she can figure out that what she had all along or what she didn't have all along, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
And those moments were not my favorite parts of the book.
Yes, I felt there was a lot of that. There was a lot of explaining and kind of, I think privately I said to you in email that there are elements of Shatter Me there, and that's probably not very fair. I do think that it's better told than Shatter Me. Shatter Me is just excruciating with the internal angst that we keep getting told about, and we don't get that. But you're quite right. That's really insightful that some of the major moments happen because Alina has told us what's happened in her head. As opposed to something taking place that we can identify with as opposed to being told. And it's a little bit like an actor coming on stage or a James Bond walking into a scene and saying, the reason I'm holding this gun is because I'm going to chase the arch evil villain and kill him. And you just don't do that in movies. Having said that, this is another book that's optioned for a movie, and I do think the premise and the story has a lot going for it when it comes to movie making. So, an artful screenwriter could turn this into a screenplay that was really, really good, because the great thing about movie making is that you can't have characters being introspective like that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on screen. If we just kind of, if you and I sat and stared at each other in this podcast and didn't say anything because it was all done inside our heads.
It doesn't really work on the podcast. We can't do that too long.
That's right. Yeah, even on YouTube, it's debatable. So yeah, I think that's definitely. If I was an editor and saying to Leigh Bardugo how to improve this book, then I really do think I would probably cut 25% of fat out of it. I would strip every single adverb, and I would really cut it back. I would force her to go and read something like Scorpio Races to see how terse is done, and I put it in a writer's perspective as well. But I quite a lot of people don't like Lee Child's writing style because it's very choppy, but I do think this is a book where it would be great to pepper it with some choppy scenes.
Just to change up the rhythm.
Exactly. The rhythm is very wordy and it tries really hard, and some of the action scenes just really feel horrible. They just didn't work for me. They're cheesy. A shot rang out. This is the exact words. A shot rang out and he fell forward, a bullet in his back. Suddenly, the air was full of panicked cries and the teeth-rattling sound of rifle fire as a volley of bullets struck the coach. Okay, fine.
It's
right in high school.
It's pretty cut and dry there.
Yeah. So
there's things that could be done.
It's not lyrical enough for me, so I'm a snob. It didn't work for me. Obviously, a lot of people love it.
Such a snob.
It's.
I should call you Snobbert.
Why I snobbert? Why I snobbert? Really, you've got a book for me. I don't believe.
I guess I'll read it.
It's not one of those snarky YA things again, is it? So look, but I suppose you look at the audience. We look at the typical repressed teenage girl who might read it and think there's something to identify with here. That there's a power inside of me that I have trouble controlling, and then I find a way to control that, and it helps me get the guy. Premise don't have an issue. It's really only writing style in this one, and if you can read past that, then no big deal.
Yeah. The reason I think a movie would work well for this is because of the Grisha. I think there's a lot of interesting powers there. Grisha, essentially magic wielders.
Yep.
And with the amplifiers and her as the sun summoner, I think there's a lot. And I'm probably not going to read the rest of the series. Who has the time? But I think there's a lot they can do with these powers going forward that could lead to some more interesting action sequences that would appease Snobbert.
Yeah, well, exactly. And Lee Bardugo should go and read my first book and probably say exactly the same things about it. So... it is what it is, and you've got to appreciate anyone who's managed to write a book and get it out in the world and attract fans and good reviews has got something going for them. I agree with you. I think there's the magical elements. Some of them, there are elements of Harry Potter in there with all the different styles of magic. So I did like that. I like the powers for sure. So Brian, you've managed to make me admit there's something I liked.
Well, it's a perfect time to get into the writer's perspective. Then
take it away.
We start with action in this book. We end with action, but in between, there really isn't much, which I think makes the middle sag. If the beginning action does help carry me along for a while, and we've got the kind of the mysterious powers, which is a little bit of the mystery there, but it needed a little more action, maybe. Like, I think they tried to bring it out, like when the rival for the Darkling's affection comes to the school and they kind of have a fight. I think they kind of hoped that would give it enough action in the middle, but it wasn't quite. It wasn't quite there. So I think to prevent the middle from sagging, you really need that, like you mentioned last week for the Scorpio races, you need that midpoint, the giant. You need almost like a middle climax there. Exactly. And this book could have used that for sure.
There are some movie directors who say it's all about the midpoint. Because at that point you're hurtling now towards the climax, and you may not know how it all resolves. So I'd put it on a similar level to The Maze Runner, actually, in terms of the issues with the book, in the sense that premise is good, too much telling. And there's more action in The Maze Runner than there is in this one. So I do think that we miss out on Alina. She's got some ninja moments, and I'd like to have seen a lot more of those ninja moments with her power and with her learning these sort of, what appear to be kind of martial art type things in the training montages. Just maybe, as I said, brutally cut it down, stir in some lead child sort of choppy terseness, and it would be excellent.
Yeah. But, I liked Alina. I didn't mind her. I think she was snarky.
I don't know.
She was snarky without being too annoying.
Yes.
Her reactions were realistic to things happening around her. Now, is she compelling enough to be the central figure in this book? Debatable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think she's a bad character per se.
Yeah. Yeah. You did right. You did right.
Yeah.
There are some. I just thought there was some really, really unnecessary. And I'm sorry, Lee. I'm trashing this a bit. I'm sure you could say the same thing about my books. There's some really silly scenes, and for me, that whole makeover by Jenya, we've suddenly descended into a book for 11-year-old girls with body image issues. You know, I don't like the message. The message is that she doesn't like herself, and then all of a sudden this magic woman's going to come along and kind of clean up her skin and make her hair look prettier. And and then we had the whole Willy Wonka tour of the Hunger Games. Hey, this is how things work around here, by the way. These are the Grisha, and this is this, and this is that. Just drove me nuts. Tell me again, Batman, how the Penguin plans to foil us.
Oh, Snobbert. Well, let's do some takeaways. Let's make this happen. Get out of here so me and my wife can go work out.
Yeah. We need to talk about Cliche Town more, huh?
I'll do the first one. What say you? I think you can get away with a lot if you start with a big action set piece. And you do need that middle thing, but you can probably keep people along for a while if you have that big action moment in the beginning. And yeah, I say it's always a smart idea in YA to do that.
We need more smart ideas in YA. My takeaway, I think that Mal is a really stupid nickname for a Russian, and he sounds more like an Aussie. Go Aussie Mal, go Aussie Mal, go Aussie Mal.
Yeah, that's your takeaway. Mal is a stupid nickname.
That's my stupid takeaway.
That is a pretty stupid takeaway. You know, Mal is a pretty bad nickname. So, my third takeaway, if your character is going to have some kind of giant revelation, it needs to feel giant. It needs to feel like this character's world is changing and the world that we are in has changed dramatically. And often these kind of revelations occur during a fight of some kind, some kind of action, some kind of something, a character moment, but neither of the big reveals in the book happened in that way, and those suffered as a result.
Yeah, which is a shame because there are good moments in the book. So, clearly I didn't like it. Brian didn't mind it. Other people love it. It's a book we can learn from. It's a book we can enjoy. So it wasn't as hard to read for me as some of the books we have had. And in that, I put Divergent in that pile. I found Divergent a hard read. It was pacey enough, and this one was a difficult read, but pacey enough.
Yeah. It had its moments.
Yes.
So how about a prompt?
The prompt. Go for it.
The prompt. What magical power would best save the world's problems in the modern day? How would you handle the revelation that you have these powers? Would you only use them for good? Why or why not?
Why not, indeed.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. A lot of these times I'll write a prompt and I don't really know how I'd answer it. I'd have to sit down.
That's the idea, though, isn't it? You have
It is the idea.
A creative dump. You just spew it all out there on the page.
I often try to take creative dumps. Often. Multiple times a day. It's better to make your creativity regular. So I have made Robert happier than he was throughout this entire Shadow and Bone.
Yeah, I'm going to take my snobbert hat off now.
Yeah, snobbert. So you can answer the question of the week at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can email us at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com. And you can get us at The Split Book, is it?
At The Split Book.
At The Split Book on Twitter. and you can talk to Bryan and Snobert as many times as you want.
That's right. And you can tell me why I'm wrong. Slap me down.
Slap him down. So next week we're doing The Here and Now by Anne Brashares, and having only looked at the cover, it seems like we're finally not doing one that's sci-fi fantasy, which I feel like the last 10 have been. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love sci-fi fantasy, but this looks a little more teens in the modern age, sort of thing.
I suppose it's only John Green and Lauren Oliver. Oh, and also All the Bright Places.
All the Right Places.
Yeah, Jennifer Niven, that's right. I can't remember the name. But you're right, yeah. So what's popular in the YA genre tends to be that sci-fi fantasy or fantasy sci-fi, paranormal.
Yeah.
Sparkly vampires,
Sparkly vampires. So this has been The Split. That's Robert Scanlon, a.k.a. Snobert. I'm Bryan Cohen, a.k.a. bookbestpageforward.com. And thank you for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you guys and your recommendations.
Yes, thank you.
Even though Shadow and Bone may not have been Robert's taste, we still, it's great to go through these, even if we don't particularly care for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Much to learn from those.
Yeah, much. So thank you again, and we will be back here next week for The Here and the Now. The Here and Now, not the now. Anne Brashares already hates me. But very excited to take that one on, and we will see you next week for the Bryan and Snobert Show.
That's the one. Ciao for now.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.